how to use watercolour on fabric, and how to mix different skin colours for embroidery. Before you do anything, you want to pre-shrink the fabric as much as you can by ironing it using a lot of steam. And always remember to paint with your fabric in a hoop to prevent any puckering. If you're printing the design onto your fabric, lower the transparency to reduce any bleeding. And if you're tracing, use something that won't bleed and is not water erasable. Always try to paint before you stitch. Your thread will absorb any water from the paint and it can discolour it. To start, you'll need red, yellow and blue watercolour paints, but I'd recommend buying a variety pack so you can experiment with different colours. You'll also need round paintbrushes, a palette or a plate, a glass of water and a scrap piece of fabric. To mix skin tones, always start by making a little puddle of water and mixing red and yellow to make orange. Then start by adding tiny amounts of blue to neutralise the orange colour. Colour mixing is delicate, so remember to add them sparingly. You can always add more, but you can't take it away and you'll end up spending more time correcting it. If your colour starts to look a bit green, then add more red. If it still looks orange, add a bit more blue. And if it looks a bit too purple, add yellow. Once you have your base colour, it's time to start thinking about the skin tone that you want. To darken the skin tone, add more paint to make it less translucent. This might mean adding and adjusting all the different colours again, so you can cheat a little and add a bit of dark brown if you have a variety pack, then you can tweak it from there. To lighten the skin tone, dilute your base colour with water. Adding more water means the paint is more likely to bleed over lines. So always do a test swatch and notice how far the paint bleeds so you can always stay inside the lines of your pattern. If you've achieved the colour that you want, but find it too watery to control on the fabric, it might be time to cheat and add some white. Adding white may wash the colour out slightly, but that's the compromise we might have to make to paint on fabric. A good tip for if you've accidentally put a lot of watery paint on the fabric is to quickly dry your paintbrush and use it to absorb the excess before it's been absorbed by the fabric. Remember to always do a test swatch on the same type of fabric you're using for your embroidery. Watercolour always dries slightly darker and it's less predictable depending on the fabric you use. Lastly, try not to let your fabric get wet after it dries, and yes, this means no washing after you've stitched as well. So hopefully painting on fabric doesn't seem quite so difficult anymore and you have all the information you need to get started.